All right, welcome to the Let It Fly show. I am Michael Severe. I am joined by the man to my right, Josh Jones, legend from Central High School and, of course, Creighton University basketball, which right now is in a unique situation because they got a big rebuild ahead and they're doing a pretty good job with it. We will get to that. But so how did you enjoy the Final Four? It was kind of a lackluster tournament until you got to kind of the Final Four. What'd you think?
I thought if I can give it a grade, bro, I'll give the tournament maybe I give it a C+. Predictable,
right?
But intense games at times. Not my favorite finish.
Yeah. See, now I will say, with Duke losing, and I will say this, check it out. They're my survivor, right?
Yeah.
So in order to win the survivor contest, right?
Right.
Couple $100. Duke needed to win. If they win, I win the whole thing. Right? They lose, I get second place.
Right.
So,
but now you mean win it all or just win?
I would have won the whole. No, I'd have won the whole thing because all I needed was because we both had our last teams in the semifinals, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm with a guy, Devin Stevens is his name. He's a local realtor guy. He's a huge Duke fan. I mean, this is a huge Duke fan.
Right.
I personally, ever since Christian Laettner came along, hate Duke.
Right.
Now as a kid.
Well, you've been hating them a long time.
I actually like Duke.
It's 90s.
Tommy Amaker and Johnny Dawkins and Danny Fair, those guys in that 78, you can go all the way back there. I still like them.
Yep.
Hate them now. And so I'm sitting there, and I need them to win, but at the same time, there's that.
I know.
But if they lose, that's not bad, especially this way. Especially if they choke.
That's called sports. There's a lot of people that I watch, and I'll be like, you know what? And maybe am I a hater for feeling like that?
It's called an emotional hedge. Well,
I'll be having them.
I would be happy to get the money.
Yeah.
But they're going to lose. Wouldn't be such a bad thing. And so I was sitting there with that. But welcome again to the Let It Fly show. We are live inside the Let It Fly Sports Bar in the Capital District. We have great specials for you whenever you come visit, all the way Monday through Friday, including Wing Wednesday when this drops. Come by and get $1 wing on Wing Wednesday, which is pretty awesome to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A lot of great drink specials as well, including the Red Bull Watermelon Margarita. Yeah, which is one of the specialty drinks here. And I'm sure they'll have a new specialty drink. As we get warmer, I'm sure they'll start changing up some of the drinks as well. We have a unique show today.
Why is that?
Normally, I can tell you at this point who the guest is going to be.
Facts.
Normally.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I have an idea who the guests will be, but I'm not totally sure because this is the week of the Jet Award Gala, which is going to happen on Thursday.
Who flight lands.
Who lands. I got Limo Joe is the name of the guy who's bringing them over.
Come on, Limo Joe.
He's going to bring people over.
Yeah.
I know Greg Pruitt's probably going to come by, former Oklahoma Sooner. One of the greatest college players of all time. This man finished both second and third in the Heisman. Didn't win the Heisman, but in back-to-back years went third and second in the Heisman. So we'll hear from him. Cleo Miller, who was a legendary fullback, played way back, in Cleveland, and then went on to the USFL and played and became kind of his job was to promote like the retired African-American players in the NFL, which is really cool. He was an advocate for them. And so we'll chat with him. I'm not sure if Mike Rozier is coming by or not. I know that he is available and he is in town.
Right.
And then I know Cleo Miller. No, I said that. The guy, Errol Tucker. Errol Tucker is the guy who won the Legacy Award for us.
Right.
So every year, the Jet Award Foundation gives out a Jet Award for a current great return man. And then they look back and say, who was great years ago? Let's give them something.
Okay.
So back in 1985 at the University of Utah, Errol Tucker was the best returner in college football.
So speaking of returner. Would you first agree that there's a difference between being the best and the most prolific of a returner?
Well, it's funny because in terms of returners, kickoff and punt returners, you are ultimately judged by how many touchdowns you have.
Yeah.
So I think you're judged by that greatness and proclivity. I think because if you have, say you have Devin Hester, for example, has the most in NFL history. Now, is he the greatest returner? I think there'd be some people who go, well, Deion Sanders might have been the greatest, but he didn't have as many returns as a guy as Devin Hester.
That's kind of what I'm getting
You go back to the college, Dante Pettis, who won our award in 2017.
Okay.
Dante Pettis has the record for the most returns.
Right.
But I don't think anybody would go Dante Pettis was the best returner in college history.
Right.
So I think you can both be the most prolific and maybe not be the greatest, and maybe be the greatest and not the most prolific. That's what I was trying to get to.
I think you just kind of summed up the
Jordan
LeBron argument right there.
And, bro, it's hard right now. It's hard right now to be a great returner.
Right. With the new rules?
Well, college and pro both are doing their best for safety.
Uh-huh.
And so one of the things.
How?
So let me give you one of the things that they used to do.
Yeah.
Used to be able to have a wedge.
Okay.
Right. So what happened was kickoff would happen. Guy would catch it at the 1 yard line in the end zone or whatever. Then 4 or 5 guys would get together and they would go running and then somebody would come and try to bust the wedge and then the returner would take his angle off of that big wedge.
True.
Then they said, look, too many people are getting hurt hitting that wedge, the wedge busters. We're going to go to a limit of 2 people.
Okay. 2
people can form this small wedge, and we'll do it that way.
So
the problem is, a couple years later, took that away. No wedges whatsoever.
Dang.
So it makes it a lot harder to return.
Okay.
Plus, now they're doing that new kickoff, right? The dynamic kickoff.
Is that for entertainment?
I think they thought that it would encourage more teams to actually return the ball. Now, here's how they're going to do it this year.
Okay, change it again.
So right now, currently, if you chose to just take the fair catch, you came out to the 30.
Okay.
This year, if you chose to take the fair catch, you can go out to the 35-yard line, I believe. I think that's what they're going to do. So I think they're going to change up the rules and try to encourage people. Oh, excuse me, they're going to kick off from the 35. Take that back. Kick off from the 30 right now. Kick off from the 35 and make you try to return it. That's the goal. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's just really hard. And then punt return's harder because the Australians came into the game and they introduced the rugby punt. So what you can do is you can catch the snap,
and boot it.
Then you kind of can run a little bit to the right, delay a little bit, and then allow those gunners.
Exactly.
So the only people that can go down off the snap are the gunners and the snapper. Right. Let them get downfield, and then you kick it, and you can kick it away from wherever the guy is. So that's made punt returning hard.
So basically, all of this jazz you talking about is for them to simply run back a return.
Yes, and try to. I think they're trying to reduce the injury in the return game by reducing the number of returns.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worked or not. I haven't seen the science on it. I just know this. This year, Caden Weegent won the award for us, University of Iowa.
Right.
He had 2 touchdowns. He had a kickoff return and he had a punt return for touchdowns. And had a bunch of returns. He led the country in yards.
Yeah.
Again, go back to 2017. Dante Pettis had 7. 7.
That's a lot, bro.
Okay?
7 is a lot.
So that's the way it was. The way it's now, it's just fewer kickoff returns for touchdowns and punt returns for touchdowns, which is not great.
I was just thinking about it like, I mean, it's an entertainment person.
Yeah.
You know, like.
I think.
Well, is the NFL got the same energy, though? Or is the NFL actually trying to do the same thing for them to try to return it? Is the same energy?
I think the NFL on the kickoff is trying to make it safer by not having the wedges, but they want to encourage kickoffs. The punt stuff isn't as much about the rules, is it that the technique has changed.
Got you.
What is the most exciting play in basketball?
A dunk or a 3?
Okay, so it's one of those 2, right?
Uh-huh.
I would say to you the most exciting play in basketball is the half-court shot to end the game.
Oh.
Like guys coming down, throws it up, bang, goes in.
I guess like a game winner.
Yeah,
but you talking about from half court.
Any kind of
game winner.
Any game winner.
Yeah, you're right.
In baseball, for me, the most exciting play in baseball
grand slam.
is a play at the plate.
Oh.
I love, especially when it's to one of the corner outfields, and you can see the guy coming around second base, and you
timing the ball coming.
And you're in your head going,
I feel you, bro.
I love that.
No, that's cool.
Most exciting play.
That's cool.
What's the most exciting play?
Not bad.
What's the most exciting play in football?
A kickoff return.
See, I think a kickoff return it turns the momentum of a game.
It does, bro.
It's fun to watch.
I agree.
So
a kickoff return.
We want to have excitement. At the same time, they don't want a lot of injuries.
1B
pick
to me.
6.
Come on, man.
Pick 6.
Pick 6. Pick 6 is crazy,
6, man.
Hey, I would never forget Alabama versus Auburn.
Oh, the kick 6,
man.
Oh, the kick 6 was crazy.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I remember sitting there.
The kick 6.
And he kicks the field goal.
The return.
Attempts the field goal. And the reason why kick 6s happen.
Yeah.
So if you think about who's kicking the ball.
Right.
So you have on the field at the time, you have a little kicker.
Yep.
You have usually a punter who's the holder.
True.
You got 5, 6, or 7 big guys.
All right.
Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, right?
Yep.
And then you got a couple smaller guys. So you kick it off. They're running back.
You beat the first 5, you good.
You ain't got to really worry about those big dudes.
You good.
You got to worry about a handful. And that was incredible. That was absolutely nuts. So those are the most exciting ones. So we want to keep. That's why. And Johnny mentions this all the time.
Dang.
He calls them he's talking about the most dynamic players, right?
Yeah, right.
The most dynamic players in sports is a guy who chooses to look up in the air, watch a ball come down, and catch it, and then decide to beat 10 guys and try to score. Yeah, coming down to hurt you.
That's called Killer Man.
Same thing true with the kickoff, right?
Dang.
The baddest man on the planet. That's what he calls it.
I
Baddest
agree.
man on the planet. Let's get to some a little bit more on college basketball and a tournament.
Okay.
So who's to blame for the Duke loss? Is it Duke to blame, or is it Houston for winning the game and doing what they did?
Keep it real with you. I blame Duke for the loss because
they choked.
Yeah, and they got dominated in most statistical categories that matter to win a game. Right. I feel like as many NCAA tournament games that I've watched, the few that I played in, the people who won had more assists, and these are like
fewer turnovers.
Yeah, they sound obvious, but they're big defending factors. Few turnovers, most assists, route rebounds. Them 3 right there. And I'm like, damn, y'all got Cooper Flag, Kanoop and all that. I'm like, y'all really choked because to keep it real, they were. I blame it on the youth.
Yeah, that and not being tested.
Yeah,
people used to talk about, this wasn't necessarily true, but they would talk about a team like Creighton coming out of the Missouri Valley,
right?
And say, well, they haven't played the competition this other team has played. So when they reach that, well, if you look at Duke played, I believe it was 4 total, maybe 5 games against the top of the KenPom.
It was 5.
So once they played the final game, they played 5. They played 4 during the regular season.
Right.
During the regular season, Houston played 6, 7 of them. 7.
I know.
So that was their 8th.
Yeah.
But all that stuff you were talking about a little while ago, in terms of stats, just the opposite of what happened with Florida and Houston. So you got Florida. Florida had 12 turnovers.
Damn.
Right? 12 turnovers. They got out offensive rebounded 13-7.
Wow.
Now they had a ton of assists, but they got out rebounded offensively. They shot about the same 3-pointers, but they had 12 turnovers.
Well, it's one of them things.
But still managed to come back and win the game.
What have I told you? It's one of those conversations.
Yeah, that game, though, it was incredible.
It was beautiful.
It was incredible to watch.
It was high level. One thing I learned about Houston, and this is like all time for me, they never could shoot.
No, they never have been able. He's not had teams that can shoot in general. You know what I found out?
What's that?
Did you know that Kelvin Sampson is Native American?
I didn't know that.
I had no idea. I had been watching
you just broke
Kelvin
it to me right
Sampson
now.
for 30 years. I always thought he was just a brother.
A black dude. Yeah.
I thought he was a brother.
Yeah.
No, he's from North Carolina. There's a Native American tribe there.
Yeah.
That his family is from.
So he's Native and black or just Native?
No, I thought too. Maybe he was mixed, but no. He's Native American. Ancestry goes way back to this tribe there in North Carolina.
That's tight.
I mean, he was the first Native American head basketball coach to make the Final Four.
And he's actually the greatest that I've ever seen, too.
He would be the greatest out of the ones I know.
You get the joke.
Out of the ones I know, he is definitely the greatest. Yeah. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to chat about the Jet Award Gala coming up with some of the celebrities that are going to be there on Thursday night over at Baxter Arena. We will chat with them. We come back here on Let It Fly Show. All right, welcome back to the Let It Fly Show. Of course, Michael and Josh with a couple of legends, men who put their bodies on the line to play in the NFL when the NFL was really a tough league. Greg Pruitt joining us. Of course, you know Greg coming to the Jet Award Foundation every year, which is awesome. And Cleo Miller, who was Greg's fullback with the Cleveland Browns. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, guys.
Thank you very much.
It's for a good cause, and I'm proud of Johnny for what he's done. And we started out as foes, and now we've become very good friends and good for college football.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Greg Pruitt, of course, at Oklahoma, Johnny at Nebraska. Cleo, tell us where you got. Where did you come up? Where did you start?
Where did I start?
Yeah.
I'm originally from Arkansas.
Where in Arkansas?
Pine Bluff.
Pine Bluff.
Well, actually, I was born in a little town called Gould, Arkansas, about 40 miles outside of Pine Bluff. Okay. I left there when I was about 2 years old and went to Pine Bluff, and I was there for the duration until I went to Kansas City and then came to Cleveland.
Oh, wow. Yeah. As I sit here with you guys, legends. Like places that people like me want to be and people strive to be, Hall of Fames and playing pro and all that. For both of you guys as kids, did you guys always have aspirations to be professional football players, or was it just something you did to get out of trouble and somebody just seen you and was like, hey, come here?
No, it was like most kids get interested in sports. It starts out on TV.
Yeah.
And you watch TV and you watch all the sports, and then you get your favorite players, and then when you go out to play, you try to emulate those guys.
Gotcha.
And that's how it started for me.
Wow. Yeah, what about you, Cleo?
Well, mine was a little bit different. Coming from a small town in Arkansas, coming from a very poor family living in the neighborhood, as they call it, didn't find any way that I could get out of the city other than through sports. And so a lot of the guys in the community, we lived right across the street from a little elementary school. And it was a popular place for all guys to come around and play sports, and compete against each other. And so I think I was probably about 11 years old, going out and competing against the guys 13 and 14 years old. And so what actually happened, I got to be pretty good playing against those guys. And one of the guys that was there said that, he gave me a nickname that followed me for a long period of time after a great defensive back that played for the Detroit Lions. They called him Dick Night Train Lane.
Yeah.
And so that name, that some version of that name went with me all the way through high school, and when I got to college, then it sort of went away from me.
Where'd you go to college?
University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.
At Pine Bluff, okay.
Yeah, formerly Arkansas A&M College.
Sure.
So, he said I was going to be just like the guy, but the thing, what actually happened is that the reason he said it is because this was a great defensive back. And here I am, a little small guy playing with the older guys, and I would get out there and tackle them, and they get angry and mad and kick at me and try to beat me and carry on. So I would run and get away from them, but I would tackle them like the Dick Night Train Lane, and that's why he came up and said I was going to be just like Dick Night Train Lane.
That's awesome. Wow. Cleo Miller and Greg Pruitt joining us here on Let It Fly Show. You talked about watching TV, and so you got a chance to watch, obviously, Jim Brown play, who was just a legend. And then you end up going to play for Cleveland. What was that like?
I never thought these years later that I would be meeting with Jim Brown. And one of I've picked up golf my senior year in college. And when I got to Cleveland, Jim was a great golfer, and he had one course called Highlands, and that was his course. You couldn't beat him on that course. And I went up one year. The Browns had a golf tournament, and then afterwards we wasn't through. We hadn't gotten enough golf, so we went to Highland. He suggested that, and we played, and played 18 holes there, and. There was an 18th hole. I probably was the first time I parred the hole since I had been playing it, but he didn't know that. But that par, I beat him. I beat him by one stroke.
That's a cool story.
So he said, so Jim say, what time you want to tee off tomorrow?
All greats are like that.
I say tomorrow. Yeah. He said, yeah, tomorrow. I said, oh, okay. So I was playing with another teammate, Ben Davis, and I say, Ben, he wants to play tomorrow. But it was typical Cleveland weather, and it was a nice day that day, and overnight, at temperature dropped. It was, mist the snow. I mean, it was cold.
And he was that competitive?
And I'm telling Ben, I'm so intimidated by him. I'm saying, man, it's too cold to play, but I don't want to go up there. I don't want to not go up there. And then he tell me I lucked up and beat him in a no-show. I say, so I'm going to go up there, man. So we went up there. And during this time, the Highland Golf Course was under construction, and they had to tow up the regular clubhouse, and they were building a new one. So they had this temporary trailer. And it was one light, and it was one car under the light. And I looked at Ben. I said, Ben, he had rented the car.
One light, one car.
Right, but he was in town for the Browns, so he rented the car. So we didn't know. I said, you don't think that's him? It's too cold, man. He said, well, we got to go and see. So I go over, and I run out of the car, and I run to the driver's side and the window come down, and it's him. I said, Jim, I said, well, I just wanted you to know, man, I was all ready to play, but it looked like it's gonna be too cold. He said, I'm playing. I said, you gonna play? He said, yeah, I'm playing. So he got out of his car. It's a true story. I don't know how cold it was. It was cold. He had a short sleeve shirt on. He put on a windbreaker. And opened his door, sit down, put his shoes on with no socks, went in his truck, got his club, and said, let's go. So we went and played, and for 9 holes, I mean, it was freezing. I was going to quit and say, I don't care what he tell anybody. Yeah. And he beat me to it. He said, I don't know about y'all. Yeah. I'm going in.
That's a story,
but you got to win over Jim Brown. That is awesome.
That's legendary.
Cleo, tell us your story from college to the NFL. What was the process? Like, did you get drafted? How'd you end up at Kansas City originally? Tell us that story.
Well, actually, I wasn't drafted, first of all. Mm-hmm. And what actually happened, one of my teammates went to the mailbox at campus. We have campus mailboxes and stuff. And then I was a scout from the Kansas City Chiefs as well as the Atlanta Falcons had come out looking at me when I was in college. And I thought that, the Atlanta Falcons were going to draft me, and they gave me the thought in my mind that they were going to that they were going to draft me. Right. But what actually happened, they didn't draft me. And so, and I was frustrated, and I was thinking about going to military service and stuff.
That was 12 rounds back then, right?
Yeah. And the thing about it is that what actually happened is that one of my teammates had gone to the post office box, and he had gotten a letter from the Kansas City Chiefs. And he said, that he was going to football camp. Now, this is a gentleman that used to be a fullback that moved out to tight end, and they looking for the starting fullback and starting halfback. Oh. And I'm saying that if he got a letter and he's not as good as I am,
yeah, right.
Let me go check my And so I went in and I checked it, and sure enough, I had a letter from the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Falcons inviting me to training camp. And the only reason that I went to Kansas City was because their running backs were older, and then Hank Stram was the head coach, and they were looking to upgrade the
Mike Garrett at that point, right? He was getting closer. He was getting older.
Mike Garrett? He wasn't there.
He wasn't there then? Okay.
He was gone. It was Wendell Hayes, Ed Polak. So what actually happened is that I wound up going to Kansas City as opposed to Atlanta, and I was sort of a little frustrated with Atlanta anyway because they led me on like they were going to draft me, and they didn't. So I went to Kansas City, and that's how I got to the Kansas City Chiefs. And we had 4 training camps during the summer. And so, and it was a year also that they were striking. Back in 1974 was a strike. And so I had a list of every guy that came in the camp. Let me digress and go backwards. Each one of the camps, I had a plan on what I was going to do and how I was going to attack, making the team. And what I said that if I was as good or greater than the guy that they drafted number 1, the starting halfback, and the starting fullback, that I would make that team.
Man.
And it wound up that I was just equal or greater than all 3 of them. And so what actually happened, we go into training camp, and then each one of the training camps, little things that I didn't know, I always worked on it. This is a true story, too. You'd never believe what I ran a 40-yard dash in when I first went in.
How big were you?
Don't say.
Give me your size. How fast were you?
4'1",
How big were you?
4'2".
At the time, I was about 6 feet and weighing 185 pounds.
Oh, so you ran a 4'3".
Nope.
Man, I can't guess.
What'd you get?
4'9".
Oh, so you was okay. The opposite way.
Yeah. All right.
But then check this out. The thing it was is that we would go through plays and different things of that nature, and then we'd go out and run and stuff. Yeah. And when we go on special teams, because I played special teams, and I never really played special teams when I was in college or anything. So the coaches would look at me on the special teams running down there. Mm-hmm. I got down there before a lot of the other guys did.
You just running off natural ability, though.
And what they noticed is that when they got in there and started timing us, then what actually happened, and because I wasn't no track runner or nothing along that.
Yeah, sure.
So normally when you come out, you're down and low. I jump straight up and then I start running.
Oh, so you just running
you just
like
didn't know how to do it
as a kid. And you still ran fast.
Yep. And I went from a 4.9 to a 4.5.
Yeah, I knew it was something. I knew the end result was somewhere around there. I knew that. As African American man, playing in the 70s, like you hear stories about like the other like pioneer players in all the different sports or whatever. What were some of the things that you guys experienced to have the legendary careers that you had and the longevity of the careers? What kept you going, and like what were some of the things that went on?
Well, for me, I went to the Browns, and I never passed the eye test. I just never looked like I was big enough.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Or strong enough to be the workhorse. And so I had to pick my spots when I got the opportunity. I always had to be ready at all times. I think the best thing that happened to me is when I went to the Browns. There was a running back there named Leroy Kelly.
Okay.
And when I first met Leroy, I sized him up. Leroy's about 5'11".
Okay.
5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
And Leroy probably around 200. I was like 175.
Oh, man,
like that.
yeah.
But in my mind, I'm saying, well, he ain't that much bigger and he ain't that much taller.
Yeah.
I said, just be a matter of time before I'm going to have his job.
Yep.
So we go in the games and we go into practice and we're running the same plays behind the same line.
Man.
And I'm getting no yards and he getting all of these yards. And then I say, maybe I should just start paying attention,
right?
And trying to emulate what he was doing. I remember a true story. We played Kansas City, and I remember I was always in a battle with Nick Scorridge, who was like 5'5", 5'6", which just irked me.
So he was a dog.
No, well, he was the coach. He was the head coach, But he looked up at me and he kept saying he didn't think I was big enough to play, and that just did not sit well with me. So we go to Kansas City and we go out for pregame, and we're in our shoulder pads, and Kansas City don't even have their shoulder pads on, and they almost twice as big as we are. And I'm saying, well, maybe they might have a point. Maybe I might be not big enough to play. But Leroy got hurt in the game. And I remember in meetings, because I was like third team behind a guy named Ken Brown. So it had to be Leroy, then that guy, then me to get a chance to play.
Okay.
So I didn't think much of in Kansas City of playing. And so Leroy gets hurt and Ken gets hurt. And now what I didn't think was going to happen happens. So now I'm in the game. And now I'm trying to remember all those things they said in the meeting. And I remember in the meeting they always talked about this middle linebacker named Willie Lanier. And they said, you can't do this and you can't do that, and he'll pick up on anything. So I go in the game and I'm trying to remember what they said, and then they called 22 trap.
That's
22 trap that's where Willie Lanier is standing.
You got to run right through him.
I got to run right through that hole. So I'm saying, what are they doing? So now my mind is working. You can't do this and you can't do that. I said, now I'm going to trick him. So I get in a 3-point stand and I lean away from the 2-hole.
Yeah.
But my curiosity, I want to see if he bit on it.
Yeah, right.
So I peep up at him and he said, he shake his head at me. He tackled me for a 4-yard loss in the backfield. He shot the gap. So I come out of the game. We three and out, and I come out of the game, and Leroy meets me and say, Greg, what are you doing? I said, the hole wasn't there. He said, that's Willie Lanier. If it's whoever, if they're all pro, they're not going to be trapped.
Right.
So, but because they're so good and they're so elusive on the trap, they actually create a hole on the other side.
Exactly.
Which is it. So it goes from the 2 to 9 to 1.
Some game.
And so I go back in the game and they call that play again. I went 85 yards. I mean, if they did a close up of me, I was running with my mouth open.
Yeah. That's crazy. I know you got stories like that too, Cleo. I know you do.
Well, I've got some stories about that. As I said to you earlier, when I first started playing football, the older guys gave me a nickname.
Yep.
And so, and then I have to go back to, and when I got in high school, I graduated from one thing to another, starting off with a suit that didn't even fit me or anything along that line.
Right.
To actually being a nose tackle, something I never played, then a tackle, and then finally the coach put me in the running back position. And so the thing about it, when I was in high school, what actually happened, the coach, he saw something in me, and I was good, and the papers and stuff stated that I was good and everything else, and he called me a hoss, by the way. And so I'm down, I'm up on the hill with the offensive lineman on the sled, hitting the sled, while all the other running backs were down there on the field.
That's so you can play tackle and running back.
No. See, yeah. Not play tackle and running back. But what actually happened? And he said, and I said, Coach, why am I up here on the sled and I'm your best running back and stuff, and all the other guys down there running plays and doing everything else? He said, Hey, Hoss, I know you can run. I know you can catch. I'm teaching you how to be a complete running back by blocking.
Wow.
And so he taught me that when I was in the 10th grade. But fast forwarding to the NFL, when I got there, and because I knew how to play both positions, but the thing was at Kansas City, whatever they asked me to do, whatever they said, and even though if I may not have even played, I never ran punts back in my life, but I ran punts and stuff back. And then also I ran kickoff back. I was on special teams. As I said, I was down there faster than anybody else. And so what they did is they saw what I was doing, and they liked what I was doing, even catching the ball out of the backfield and all that kind of stuff. They told me they liked it and said, here's what you do. You keep on continuing to play and do what you're doing. Before the end of the year is over, you're gonna play. And it wasn't until about 3 games before the season was over with, but I got my opportunity to play. And it was against the St. Louis Cardinals. And what actually happened is I helped win the game for them. And people coming out everywhere want to know, who was that guy? Where's that guy? Where'd he come from?
Yeah.
And then Hank Stram called me his secret weapon.
Yeah.
He said I was his secret weapon. And from that point on, he had planned on me being this. He's going to move me to the fullback position and have Woody Green play the halfback position. And they fired him.
They fired him, went to the Saints.
They fired him, and and then he was out for a little while, and then that was all my hopes and dreams that went away during that time. But he had given, in the papers and everything, Howard Cosell couldn't pronounce my name. Everybody said this, they called me Cloud and everything. But Hank Stram said, "This is my." I got the name Secret Weapon.
Yeah.
And
wow.
So I come along with different things of that nature, but the thing that really excited me more.
Greg Pruitt?
Yeah, this guy.
when we were playing together in the backfield, and we played against the Buffalo Bills, and I gained more yards than O.J. Simpson. And I always tell him that he couldn't block. And that game, he had to block for me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, after that game's over, when it was always, see, I told you I could block. I never lived that down. One game, he blocked it.
Cleo Miller and Greg Pruitt joining us here on the Let It Fly show. What kind of fullback, what kind of blocker was Cleo?
Great. But see, what people miss that's very important to the running game is when you play our formation and the fullback leads for you.
Right.
Not only do he have to block, but he have great vision too.
Right.
And so he always put me in a position where I could use my vision to make the big plays. And then you develop a confidence.
Yeah.
Like they call certain plays.
Second nature.
Every play has a key block.
Yep.
And a key person got to block.
Right.
Make that block. Now that might be, you got to pay attention. The play they just call and the play that they're asking to be done might not be that guy's best block.
Gotcha.
So you don't hit that hole real hard. You kind of got to help him as much as you can. Like maybe you're trying to get outside and the tackle got to hook the defensive end.
Right.
So you press inside to make the end stay inside till he. So those kind of things. But once you can check those off, your concentration go to something else. Then you become more effective.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Cleo, tell us what you ended up doing after you finished playing.
What did I did a number of things. I've been involved in politics. I've had a temporary employment agency. I've worked for the county, the city, and the likes. And then I've gotten involved in the community.
Right. Y'all brothers, man. Y'all brothers.
No. The thing about it at that time, they had a thing where they did. The NFL was supposed to have been giving us some monies and stuff. They used to call it whatever it was, some bonus type money. It wasn't worth nothing. And then people running there talking about, they gave you all this money.
Oh, like a retirement thing?
No. It was something because of some lawsuit or something. That
Okay.
Yeah, and they had to give the money and stuff to the guy.
It wasn't worth nothing.
Man,
These guys today.
It's
unbelievable.
And then the guys, the reporters and stuff would come up to us and talk about the money. And I said, money. And talking about money, you getting all this money. I said, money now or money gone?
Yeah, right.
Because it put in your hand. As soon as you put in your hand, it was so little that it was gone.
That's crazy.
But anyway,
I think my first year contract, I was the 30th pick in the draft. And I had a $35,000 signing bonus. I made $25,000 my first year, $27,000 my second year, and $31,000 my third year. That's a 3-year contract. Yeah. And then after 3 years, I went to the Pro Bowl all 3 years. They said, okay, we're gonna redo your contract. We're gonna triple your contract.
Right.
And I started saying, wow, and I started jumping, and then I started adding.
Yeah.
31 times 3 ain't a whole lot.
No, that's funny. What did y'all do with y'all first paychecks? Like when you first got your first.
Whoa. Let me tell you this. See, now, Greg, what round you drafted in?
Second round.
He drafted in the second round. So he's sort of high up on the scale.
Yeah.
But here I am. I'm a fullback. I'm a running back. I ain't drafted. I'm at the low end of the scale.
Right.
And my first year in professional football, I made $12,500 for making the team.
And what year was that?
This is 1974.
I'm gonna Google it for inflation.
Yeah.
See what that is.
And I had to make the team. As a matter of fact, after my first year in professional football, I had to go home and get on unemployment. I drew unemployment.
I did that when I was in the military.
Oh
I got welfare checks.
Right.
This is funny, dude.
And so here I am, a professional football player. I had to get on draw unemployment because you couldn't make enough money to live in one city to maintain and be living in another city to maintain it.
Right.
And then the other thing, too, you're trying to find a job, and ain't nobody got no job. You're looking and saying, we got to pay this guy money. He's a professional athlete or whatever.
That's how they look at you.
Yeah, they look
crazy.
at you from this standpoint. But we wasn't getting no money.
Right.
Right. And so...
that's crazy.
And that's how it actually went when it came to the money.
So y'all literally crawled so Emmitt Smith could walk. So these guys
Yeah. But what I was trying to...
But they don't pay pioneers.
Yeah.
Man.
What I was trying to tell you, that $12,500 that I made,
Yep.
that's what me making the team.
Dang.
You got guys right now that don't make the team just on the practice squad.
I had a buddy, 50,000 a week.
Right.
They're making no less than $5 million.
And this was 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's the kind of money we're talking about. $12,500 to that kind of money.
I see.
And when you look at what you are, and they devalued the fullback and stuff at the time, because when I was blocking for Greg, there was no guy in the NFL had any better stats than I did.
Dang.
And especially with the Browns.
Yeah. Right.
They had two guys that couldn't run the ball and couldn't catch the ball.
Well, I'll tell you
block.
how good he blocked. I never got 1,000 yards again. When Cleo didn't start, I didn't get 1,000 yards. I remember, I tell you, Mike, he warned me.
Yeah. That's crazy.
As a matter of fact, he didn't get it, and then they traded him after that. He got his leg broken, they traded him.
That's great. I'd say my favorite player as a kid was Tony Galbraith, who was a fullback for the Saints. So I know how it is. Guys, hey, I appreciate you guys coming in. Is this the first time Cleo in Omaha or in Nebraska for you?
No, my daughter lives here.
Oh, that makes sense. So you made the trip. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
I got to ask you off camera, how'd you get to Nebraska type stuff? And all,
Well, came for school, and then she got 2 kids, one at Princeton, one at Rutgers.
Right. And what school was that you went to? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's awesome.
There's value in Nebraska.
No doubt, Well, guys, we appreciate you guys coming in. It's going to be a fun couple days.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming on.
I look forward to coming back next year. I think the Jet Award is a great thing. It's for a great cause. It changes a lot of people's lives.
Yep.
And I'm all about that. I tell kids all the time, dreams do come true. You always got to be on your best behavior, and you always got to try to do the right things. And so for us, sports saved our lives.
Oh, wow.
It occupied our negative time with positive time. So it's hard to be in 2 places at one time. And my mom knew that, and that's why she let me play sports.
Amen. That's powerful.
Guys, we appreciate it. We'll see you the rest of the week. It'll be fun. Thanks for coming in, Cleo. Thank you very much for tagging along with Greg.
Well, this is my first time, and I'm going to experience it.
Yeah.
I've experienced something similar to this, but it's never nothing like experiencing this or an event for the first time.
No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then it's going to, put me in a frame of mind, which I want to come back to Nebraska anyway, because I got my daughter and family stuff here. But it would be good to come back and be more involved and see and try to do what I can also to actually help with the Jet Award.
That works. Cleo Miller, Greg Pruitt. Appreciate it. All right, welcome back to the Let It Fly show. Fun.
It was fun, man. Like it's cool listening to like history. It's cool listening to the legends. Yep. Something I really wish I could ask more in depth that I'm just kind of like, I guess is a guilty pleasure, fascinated about. It's Juice being on the loose.
Oh, okay.
Like hearing about how great of a back O.J. Simpson was and all of that, and them hearing somebody say they had better then was a cool connection.
Yeah, O.J. is just a weird career because, so O.J. didn't have the grades to go to USC, so he had to go to San Francisco Junior College.
Yep.
Then he goes to USC. He first gets there, and he's okay. Obviously, wins the Heisman. Then he gets to the league, and he struggles his first couple of years in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Then he has the best year at that time any back ever had, and then the knees started going.
Yeah.
So he had, knee, back. He had so many problems.
For sure.
I watched him play. He came to New Orleans with the Niners after he left Buffalo, and his shoulder was bad, and people still wanted to see him because he was O.J. Simpson.
Right.
But, he was not anywhere near the player he was back then.
Yeah.
It took a lot out of them boys.
Right. Just the brotherhood to see them too.
Yeah.
I bet they got stories for days.
Yeah. You can tell they're tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. They reached out. It's like, Greg's like, can I bring Cleo? I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like, to me, it seems like they dedicate their, a period of their lives to each other.
Yeah.
One blocking from the other.
Oh, yeah.
Because of one, the other had the trajectory of his career was based off his blocks.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that, man.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You get you can't those are priceless.
Yeah. And he didn't get to it, but he mentioned before he left, Cleo Miller was the head of the NFL Players Association, right? The Alumni Association, they always have a former player that does that.
Right.
And they go into all the meetings, they do the negotiations and stuff. So that was a really cool step in his life as well.
That was tight.
So,
I'm glad you get to experience that type of stuff.
Oh, it's gonna be cool, man. It's gonna be a fun week. We got a ton scheduled on Wednesday.
What's the attendance like right now? I know it was like 1,000 last time.
This is probably going to be our most attended event we've ever had.
Man.
We have more tables than we had last year. All the tables are packed. We got basically 2 seats that are open on the tables. And then we invited a whole bunch of...
Yours and Johnny's.
Well, one of my buddies like, I don't need a table. I'm going to be walking around the whole time.
Right.
But there's another guy. We're also going to have a bunch of students that are going to be sitting in the stands that
That's
we're invited.
nice. See,
Boys and Girls Club, 100 Black Men,
right.
All these different organizations are bringing them in. So we're going to do that and a bunch of the high school. So that's going to be awesome. It's going to be a fun event.
It's just, I mean, for me, that's dope because there's... Out of all those kids, there's one that's envisioning himself.
Oh, heck yeah.
He gonna get that award.
At least one. No doubt about that. So, hey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. As always, thank you to Bud Light for being our presenting sponsor. Easy to drink and easy to enjoy no matter where you are, no matter what sport you're watching. And don't forget, Monday through Friday, specials every single day here at the Let It Fly Sports Bar, whether you're out here, Capital District, or you're out west. I actually finally ate at the one out west.
What you think?
Well, it was not. First of all, it was really cold that day, and my wife kept complaining because we were by the door, and people kept coming in.
Yeah, the draft.
The draft was coming through, and she's like, "It's so cold."
Yeah, for sure.
But it was great. We had great food. It was awesome. Right. So whether you're out in Elkhorn or you're down here in the Capital District, take advantage of that as well. And again, if you're listening to the show, please follow us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, follow us wherever you listen to the show, like and subscribe as well.
Yep.
And it helps us out. Take us away, sir.
Hey. Josh Jones here with Michael Severe. You know how we do it. It's a Let It Fly show.